Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome back. What's up? It's Dave, and I'm a coach and a hypnotherapist for those of you that don't know me. And on this channel, we like to talk a lot about spirituality, waking up, personal development, personal growth, psychedelics, all these kinds of things, the kind of deeper implication of what it means to self-actualize and wake up as a human being. And today's video is going to be a juicy one. This is a crucial topic. So I hope you stay with the whole video here because you're going to get a lot out of it. If you're someone who's on the path of awakening and you know you're waking up and you know you're going through this process, maybe you don't fully understand it yet, what I'm about to articulate to you here is an important piece of the pie. So please keep watching, take a listen, and let me know what you think, all right? I hope you enjoy. So the crucial distinction that I want to convey here to you, the key point that I really want you to chew on and meditate on for yourself and see if it rings true is the following. Your relationship to awakening is totally, completely connected to and the same thing as your relationship to truth. The fundamental understanding of awakening that you really should be holding and that a lot of people don't get about the awakening process is that fundamentally underneath all the bliss and all the insights and all the wisdom and all the expansion and growth and self-actualization and all those beautiful effects, those effects are in relationship to a cause. And that cause is encountering the truth and then integrating that truth into your being. Now, I know a lot of people don't think of it that way, and it took me a long time to arrive at that understanding myself. But if you just take a look at what it means to awaken, what it means is to essentially, that word itself is a metaphor for waking up from sleep, right? So what do you do when you wake up from sleep? You open your eyes, you get your physiology active, right? And you get engaged, and your nervous system goes from a passive state to an active state, right? Same thing here with whatever personal, spiritual, psychological awakening you might be going through. It's the same thing, except opening your eyes is really about opening up to more truth, to more information around you. Another way of understanding truth in this context is information. So really, your ability to wake up, your ability to awaken yourself, to activate, to actualize, hinges on completely your ability to work with the truth and to allow new information to come into you and work with that skillfully. So there's a lot of implications by me saying that we're going to go ahead and talk about further on in this video. But I want you to just consider that. What does it mean to work with the truth? What does it mean to have new information come in, whether you like it or not? And what are the implications that come with adding more truth to who you are, adding more truth to your understanding of self, adding more truth to your understanding of the world around you? What are the implications of that? Let's talk about it a bit more because there's a lot to unpack there. So another way to frame or phrase what I'm saying here to you is to think of it this way. The ability to take in new information and to accept it and allow it and not resist it and not be blind about it, but also not be too closed off and too stodgy and too rigid about it. The ability to take in that information and then apply it in yourself and apply it in your life is a skill. And it's a skill that, like any skill, comes from practice and comes from doing and comes from being patient with yourself as you acquire this new skill. So I want you to consider that your relationship to truth, whatever that might mean to you, is a skill that you can cultivate. And that as you cultivate that skill, not only do you get better at integrating truth, but you by proxy get better at awakening, at speeding up your growth process, at speeding up your transformation, at speeding up your ability to heal, and all the things that you probably want for yourself if you're watching a video like this. So that obviously means that by proxy, one of the best ways to stop your awakening process, to slow it down, bring it to a grinding halt, if you will, is your closed offedness to new information. So the more closed you are, the more you think you already have the answer, the more you think you already know, the more you're in confirmation bias, the more you're in rigid skepticism and extreme doubt, if you're in either extreme of blind faith or rigid skepticism, you're essentially closing off the valve to personal growth. Now, I want you to stop and think about what that costs you in the long run. What does it cost you to slow down your growth? How long are you willing to tread water and be stuck in the same experience over and over and over, day in, day out, week in, week out, year in, year out of your life? It's the cost is huge. The cost is monumental. What it can do to you to close off to new information. And yet I see so much of this, especially lately online, especially on my social media, amongst a lot of people I know who think of themselves as open-minded, caring, compassionate, growth-oriented, transformation-oriented people. I see a lot of people who are unwilling to take in new information and evaluate it. Now, let me be clear here. I'm not making an argument for conspiracy theories or for willy-nilly taking in all kinds of crazy cockamamie information that may or may not be true. Nor am I making an argument that that you should just be super stringent, but I do think that there's a sweet spot in the middle there where you want to be able to take in new information openly, hold it loosely. Don't immediately reject it and contract, and don't immediately hold on to it as if it's the truth, but sit in that middle spot of, I don't know. Maybe this is right, maybe this is wrong, I'm not sure yet. And kind of just evaluate for yourself whether or not, it's true by running it through your filters of discernment. So you want to be able to discern what's factual, what's accurate, what's correct by testing it in your mind, by running it through different scenarios, by running whatever it is you're learning through different contexts and situations. When is this true? When is this not true? Is this something that's kind of emotionally true but not logically true, etc., etc., etc. You want to really filter through what it is you're learning, but at the same time, you don't want to just shut it out because it immediately maybe conflicts with what you already think you know, or think you believe, or think you like, or think, et cetera, et cetera. I have been blown away. I have been shocked so many times in my life by how many of the things I thought I didn't like, and this includes people, become the things that are the most important things in my life. So often, I know a new favorite band is going to be my new favorite band because I hate their music the first time I hear it. Often I know that a person that I kind of have an aversion to or resistance to might very well end up being one of my closest friends. This very often happens to me, and I know that I'm not alone in that a lot of people go through that. And what that really is just having a closed map, having too closed of a map of reality, and not really being open to allowing that to expand, to engaging and experiencing whatever new input you're getting and finding the right place for that for you. And that kind of naturally brings me to my next point here with you guys, which is that fundamentally the process of awakening means learning how to, again, it's a skill, learning how to embrace all truths, right? So you can't really just take the truths that feel good, that are pleasurable, that are inspiring. And interestingly enough, it's so funny how often I see people or work with people or know people in my life that actually have a major resistance to positive truths, because sometimes these things can seem too good to be true, right? But the other side of the coin is also that just because a truth is uncomfortable or upsetting, doesn't mean that you should throw it out, doesn't mean that you should ignore it, doesn't mean that it's any less true. It just means that you're struggling to find a way to expand yourself, your sense of self, your sense of the world, your sense of meaning to encompass that truth, right? And if you're struggling with something like that, I want you to know that I can teach you ways to more rapidly expand your sense of self, but that's also something you can just do on your own. That's something you can do very easily by simply, just challenging yourself to accept what's uncomfortable, because so much of, again, we're talking about truth. So we're talking about information that is facts, that is real, that is testable, that is provable, that is experientially true and knowable and perceivable from multiple people, from multiple different walks of life. So we're talking about things that are solid, right? We're talking about perception that is solid. We're not talking about opinion. We're not talking about feelings. We're talking about when you encounter information that's solid, but it's something that you don't like necessarily, that you may find uncomfortable, that you may find upsetting or destabilizing, then how do you work with that? Do you have the skill to be able to allow it in anyways? I really want to hammer this point home, and this is what I meant by the implications of the truth in your relationship to the truth. Are you able, are you willing to be destabilized? Because the truth sometimes can be super harsh, right? It can be brash, it can feel very intense, especially if we're holding on to an old, outdated, somewhat delusional, somewhat distorted view or understanding of ourselves or life or whatever it is the truth that we're encountering is about. When we get that new truth, it can be intense, it can be very brash, it can be very rough, it can be sharp, it can be penetrating. And if we're not ready for that, and if we don't know how to breathe and allow that in, then really, again, that's costing us our growth. That's costing us our ability to expand. That's costing us our ability to awaken further. Because fundamentally, every new fact that you bring in that expands your understanding and is more information that is clear-cut and accurate helps you to awaken. So your ability to deal with, extreme pleasure, of very positive truths, or, extreme disruption and discomfort from, what would be called a negative truth or an upsetting truth, that's a crucial key skill in your self-actualization, self-growth, waking up process. One really good example of this that you'll see a lot is if you've ever taken psychedelics, you've probably had the experience of realizing that you were filtering out information that was coming maybe either through you intuitively, internally inside your body, internally inside your mind, or externally information that maybe you had tuned out that was happening all around you the whole time, but you just didn't notice, right? So this is a perfect example of what it means to encounter the truth. Generally speaking, we have to filter out most of the information that's coming into us. We have to filter out most of the information that's coming into us. It's like an eyeball. If you think about it, the eye always is filtering out more information that's taking in the sense that behind you, above you, below you, all around you is where most of the information in your experience is, but your eye can't see it. And then out of the information that your eye can see, most of that is going to be your peripheral vision. And there's only a smaller percentage of your actual vision that's inside your focal vision or your foveal vision. And so the vast majority of the information your eyes are taking in is stuff that you're filtering out. And then out of that, some of that might be useful. If you see something move out of the corner of your eye, if you're too used to filtering things out, that might be something useful. That could be money that someone dropped on the ground that you could go and pick up and be richer for, or that could be, a runaway dog that needs caring for. That could be all kinds of things, right? Point being. But we so often live in this very narrow aperture of information, most of which has to be related to things we think we already know, or think we already believe, or think are already true. And by way of doing that, we actually have a very, very, very narrow bandwidth, if you will, of information that we're taking in. And so the fundamental capacity of taking in truth that expands who you are as a person and expands your ability to awaken further is very much about being able to allow and stop filtering out information that you thought was irrelevant and come back around and pay a little more close attention and listen closer and look closer and consider again and be open, right? Because it's in your openness that you're able to expand, and it's in that expansion that you're able to therefore be a bigger, deeper, broader, more multifaceted human being. And so for some of you, that might seem all awesome. Thank you so much for clarifying this. This really does make sense. I get it. For others of you, what I'm saying might be a little bit, contradictory feeling to your impressions of what it means to awaken. You might have these concepts of awakening as being something that is just all light and bliss and divine connection and wisdom and universal truths, and it's so pleasurable and it's so wonderful. And all of that's true. That is absolutely part of the process of awakening. But also, along with that, is this whole other aspect, which is dealing with disruptive truths, dealing with being upset, dealing with being shaken to the core, dealing with being challenged about what your assumptions about what it means to be a human being, or what it means to be alive, or what it means to be here, with these people, what is true about politics, what is true about human nature, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many areas where you will be disrupted radically. And I just want to bring you the wholeness of this message, the wholeness, because the whole point of awakening itself is about moving further into wholeness. And so you can't move into wholeness if you are closed off to some of the information that's coming into you, right? So I'm trying to convey this to you so that you have a deeper understanding of what it is you're involved in, and your willingness to accept the whole message increases. So one of my most popular videos that I made recently was my video on the reminder that all awakening begins with disruption, which is true. And truth and disruption can often go hand in hand. I want to make it clear that I don't see them as being the same thing. That obviously you can experience a truth that just slides right in for you and is not controversial at all and is very self-evident, very clear. And you can also experience disruption that is filled with lies and, false information, and yet it's still disruptive to you. So I'm not saying that truth always equals disruption. They don't have to, but clearly, obviously, they overlap quite a bit, right? And so I wanted to just communicate this to you and just draw this back to your attention, because these are some of the beginning phases and stages of awakening, right? So in order to awaken, first, I'll tell you more about this in an upcoming video, but basically you have to be in pain. You have to have some sort of motivation to want to change the situation you're in. And then while you're in pain, then you must be disrupted. And that disruption must bring some sort of new truth with it. It's this disruption that calls your attention to a more fundamental truth. It's your integrating of that more fundamental truth that is the process of awakening. There's a lot more to it. That's only the beginning of the process of awakening, but it really is the key that unlocks the beginning of the awakening process. So that's really what I want to communicate to you in this video. And I wanted to invite you, because I know if you are, on this path of awakening and you're serious about it and you want to grow and you want to evolve and you want to continue to heal and level up in your life, if that's where you're at and that's what you're going through, I want you to be clear with yourself. I want you to be clear with yourself so that your foot isn't on the brake and you're not stopping your own growth. I want you to be clear with yourself that your ability to awaken, your ability to progress on this path is completely connected to your ability to take in the truth, digest it, work with it, make space for it, allow yourself to be disrupted, because they are deeply, deeply intertwined. So that's all I really want to share for this video. I hope you liked it. I hope it rang a bell or two for you. And if it did, do me a favor and please just, thumbs up the video, or sub if you really like my content, or comment down below. I want to know that this is hitting home for you so I can make more of this content if this really is connecting for you. So I wish you all the best, and I hope you're safe, and I hope you're healthy. And I look forward to sharing more with you in the future. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Be well, and we'll talk soon.